two men climbed a quiet hill, carrying a bottle of water, 2 lead masks, and a handwritten note. They followed every instruction. Then, they put on the lead masks. They were waiting for something. Something they believed was about to happen. But instead, they died. August 17, 1966, Campos dos Goitacazes, Brazil. For Miguel José Viana and Manuel Pereira de Cruz, it was supposed to be just another business trip. Both men worked as electronic technicians. They repaired radios, built homemade equipment, and spent countless hours experimenting with electronics. People who knew them described them as intelligent, curious, quiet. The kind of men who were always trying to understand how things worked. Nothing about that morning suggested it would be the last time their families would ever see them alive. Before leaving, the two men told their wives they were traveling to Niterói. They needed to buy electronic components. It wasn't unusual. They had made similar trips before. Miguel promised he wouldn't be late. Manuel said they'd be back soon. Neither man showed fear. Neither man said goodbye as if something was wrong. They simply left, like they always did. There was one small detail almost everyone ignored. Before the trip, the two technicians carried more money than usual. Not enough to attract attention, but enough to suggest they were planning to buy something important. Hours later, they arrived in Niterói, a busy city more than 200 kilometers from home. The streets were crowded. Stores were open. People hurried from one place to another. Miguel and Manuel blended into the crowd. They looked calm, relaxed. Just two friends walking through the city. Then, they made a purchase that would later become one of the most puzzling details in their journey. Not electronic equipment. Not tools. Raincoats. Heavy, waterproof raincoats. There was just one problem. The sky was clear. The temperature was warm. And yet, the two men quietly picked up the raincoats, and continued on their way. They had no idea that before the sun went down, someone, or something, was waiting for them. Miguel and Manuel continued through the busy streets of Niterói. Their next stop wasn't an electronics store. Instead, they walked into a small neighborhood bar. They ordered a bottle of mineral water. Nothing else. The waitress placed the bottle on the table. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then, she noticed one small detail. Miguel kept checking his watch. Again. And again. A few moments later, Miguel paid. Picked up the bottle. Thanked the waitress. And the two friends walked back outside. The afternoon sun still filled the streets. The sky was perfectly clear. Yet, the heavy raincoats never left their hands. They continued walking, leaving the crowded streets behind. One step after another. The noise of the city slowly faded away. Ahead of them rose Vintém Hill. Quiet. Almost forgotten. Yet, for some reason, that was exactly where they were going. As they disappeared up the narrow path, someone was watching them. A woman who would later remember every small detail of that afternoon. Because without realizing it, she had just become one of the last people to ever see them alive. As they continued toward Vintém Hill, they stopped to ask a local woman for directions. Her name was Maria Silva. She pointed toward the hill. Miguel and Manuel thanked her. Then continued up the narrow path. Maria watched them disappear into the trees. It was the last time she would ever see them alive. That evening, Miguel and Manuel never returned home. At first, their families thought they had simply been delayed. Then one night passed. Then another. Still, no phone call. No message. No sign of either man. Days later, a young boy was flying his kite near the top of Vintém Hill. Then, he noticed something lying on the hillside. At first, he couldn't understand what he was looking at. But what he had just seen would become the beginning of one of the strangest mysteries in Brazil's history. The 18-year-old boy ran home as fast as he could. He tried to explain what he had seen. At first, no one believed him, but when several adults followed him up Vintém Hill, they realized he had been telling the truth. Two men were lying side by side. It was Miguel and Manuel. There were no signs of a struggle, no blood. No visible injuries. Nothing explained how they had died. Even stranger, their watches were still on their wrists, their money was untouched, nothing had been stolen. It didn't look like a robbery, it didn't look like an accident, it certainly didn't look like an ordinary death. As investigators examined the bodies more closely, they noticed something even more unusual. Each man was wearing a strange handmade lead mask. It covered only the eyes. No one could explain why they were wearing them. The investigators searched the area around the bodies. They were looking for answers. For evidence. For anything that could explain what had happened. Then, they found something they couldn't explain. It wasn't the answer they were looking for. It was the beginning of an even bigger mystery. The strange object beside the bodies was a small handwritten note. At first, it didn't seem important. But once investigators read it, the entire case became even more confusing. The note contained only a few short instructions. 16:30, be at the agreed place. 18:30, ingest the capsules. After the effect, protect metals. Wait for the signal, mask. That was it. No names. No explanation. No signature. Just a few simple lines, written as if someone had left themselves a list of instructions. Investigators immediately began asking questions. What capsules? No capsules were ever found. What signal? No one knew what they were supposed to be waiting for. And what did protect metals actually mean? To this day, no one has been able to explain that phrase with certainty. Some believed it referred to radiation. Others thought it was connected to electricity, or something far stranger. But there was another problem. The note suggested that Miguel and Manuel had planned everything. They had chosen the time. They had followed the instructions. They had climbed the hill for a reason. Which meant, whatever happened that night may not have been an accident at all. The note had answered nothing. It had only raised even more questions. There was only one way to move the investigation forward. The bodies were taken for a full forensic examination. Everyone believed the autopsy would finally reveal what had really happened on Vintém Hill. But what the autopsy revealed would leave investigators even more confused. The bodies were taken to the medical examiner. For investigators, this was the moment they had been waiting for. The autopsy was expected to reveal what had really happened. Miguel and Manuel had last been seen alive on August 17, 1966. Their bodies were not discovered until August 20th. Nearly 3 days later. By then, Brazil's heat had already taken its toll. The bodies had decomposed far enough to make the examination much more difficult. Even so, the doctors began a careful examination. They searched for gunshot wounds. There were none. They looked for stab wounds. None were found. They examined the bodies for broken bones or any sign of a violent struggle. There were no injuries that could explain how either man had died. The note mentioned capsules. So investigators considered the possibility of poisoning. But there was another problem. No capsules were ever found. And because of the advanced decomposition, the medical examiner could not determine whether poison had played any role. When the examination was over, the result was shocking. No official cause of death could be determined. The one place everyone expected to find answers had provided none. The lead masks, the handwritten note, remained a mystery. And now, even the cause of death was a mystery. The investigation had reached a dead end. The evidence had run out. And for the first time, people began to wonder if the answer could lie somewhere beyond conventional explanations. The first theory was also the most famous. Some believed Miguel and Manuel hadn't climbed Vintém Hill to meet a person. They had gone there to meet something else. The lead masks immediately caught people's attention. Many believed they weren't designed to hide the men's identities. They were meant to protect their eyes from an intense flash of light. A phenomenon frequently described by people who claimed to have witnessed UFOs across Brazil during the 1960s. As the story spread, rumors spread with it. Some believed the two men had arranged a meeting with visitors from another world. Others even argued that the handwritten note wasn't simply a list of instructions. It was a carefully planned schedule for the encounter they expected to happen that evening. The idea was impossible to ignore. Investigators reviewed witness statements, checked reports from the days surrounding the incident, and searched for anything unusual that might support such an extraordinary claim. But the results were disappointing. No credible witnesses reported seeing a UFO above Vintém Hill on August 17. No radar records detected unusual activity. And investigators found no physical evidence that anything had landed there. The theory explained the masks, but it couldn't explain the capsules, the handwritten note, or how the two men had actually died. So investigators turned their attention to another possibility. One that didn't begin in the sky. It began with Miguel and Manuel themselves. The second theory was very different. It didn't involve visitors from another world, it began with the two men themselves. Miguel and Manuel shared an unusual interest. They believed science and spirituality could work together. Friends later told investigators that the two men had spent years experimenting with electronic devices while trying to contact spiritual entities. That immediately caught investigators' attention. Could the trip to Vintém Hill have been another one of those experiments? The more investigators looked, the more believable the theory seemed. The two men had traveled together, carried a handwritten set of instructions, purchased a bottle of mineral water, and brought lead masks with them. None of it looked random. It looked planned. Investigators interviewed friends, relatives, and people who had known the two men. Several confirmed their fascination with spiritualism. Some even claimed Miguel and Manuel believed it was possible to receive messages from higher beings through carefully planned experiments. But one question could never be answered. What exactly were they trying to do on Vintém Hill? No equipment capable of carrying out such an experiment was ever found. No one knew what happened after they put on the lead masks. And no witness ever saw the final moments of their lives. The theory explained why they chose that isolated hill. But it still couldn't explain what actually happened after they arrived. Which led investigators to another clue. One hidden in a single sentence, written on the mysterious note. The final theory focused on just two words. Protect metals. At first, the sentence made no sense. Protect, what metals? And from what? Investigators examined every possible explanation. Some believed the note referred to radiation. Others thought the men expected a powerful burst of energy, strong enough to require special protection, that could explain why they carried lead masks. Investigators didn't dismiss the idea. The hill was carefully examined. Experts searched for anything unusual. Signs of radiation, electrical equipment, or evidence of an unknown experiment. But nothing out of the ordinary was ever found. No abnormal radiation was detected. No hidden equipment was recovered. And nothing at the scene explained what the words, "protect metals," actually meant. Even today, no one knows who wrote those words, what they meant, or why Miguel and Manuel believed they were important enough to follow. Instead of answering the mystery, that single sentence only made it even deeper, and the mystery lived on. Nearly 60 years have passed. The lead masks case has been investigated, discussed, and debated by detectives, journalists, and researchers from around the world. Yet the most important question has never changed. What really happened on Vintém Hill? Until today, Vintém Hill remains silent. The lead masks remain unexplained. And the mystery remains unsolved. What do you think really happened on Vintém Hill? Leave your theory in the comments. If you enjoyed this investigation, share this video with someone who loves real mystery cases. And subscribe because the next mystery may be even more unbelievable.